Well, back in Australia, Michael Clarke makes his comeback playing Sydney grade cricket today. It comes after a very challenging time at the end of his Test career. Tense relationship with the selectors, a chronic back injury, an Ashes loss, and also some public criticism from former players as well. And who would forget the death of his very good friend, Phillip Hughes. He sat down with an exclusive chat with Nerily Meadows.
Michael, thanks for joining us on Fox Sports. You're about to make your comeback to cricket. You nervous?
Thanks for having me, Nerily, and presenting me with this very comfortable chair. I'm not nervous now. I think I will be nervous come Saturday before I walk out onto the field or walk out to bat. I've always been nervous before I've played, so I'm sure this Saturday will be no different. But I'm excited. It's a real honour to have Western Suburbs ask me to come back and play this game. And I know there's been a lot made of the comeback. Where's it going to take me? But honestly, my focus is really on giving back to a club that has been really loyal to me through my career and playing this game for them. I haven't looked at anything past this game. So yeah, I'm excited. There's no doubt about it.
Let's clear it up then. Do you want to wear the baggy green again?
I loved every single game I played for Australia. I was very lucky to play for 13 years at the highest level, and I have no intention right now to play any cricket for anybody apart from Western Suburbs. In the back of my mind, there's no doubt that I'm playing this game for my club to see how I feel, and the opportunity to play some short form cricket that I probably didn't focus on when I was playing international cricket does excite me. So if everything goes well out here, I will look to play, the 2020 format, whether it be BBL, IPL. There's a number of different competitions around the world, but in regards to representing Australia again, I've given it absolutely no thought.
Putting a line through it?
Well, it hasn't even crossed my mind. I haven't touched my baggy green since I retired, put it that way. So
what about Australia and 2020? Is it the same situation?
It's exactly the same situation. I don't, when I say focus and concentrate on the shorter format of the game, I don't have any intentions of playing 2020 cricket for Australia.
You knew the interest that this would generate, didn't you? When you said that you were coming back to play this game.
Yeah, but I think where I made a mistake was, well, I didn't make a mistake, but I think I said the words never say never. One game for Western Suburbs, play that, and then I can assess. I've got the whole winter to work out if I want to be a part of, some 2020 tournaments. If I enjoy that, am I going to go and play county cricket? If I want to do that, there's opportunity. There's opportunity to play for my state, for New South Wales. There's so many different levels of cricket that I can get that competitiveness, get that word out, back, and that's what I've missed about the game.
Has retirement hit you harder than you thought it would?
Not at all. Like I said, I never feared retirement. I'd been planning retirement for 4 years before I walked away from the game. So, no, it's been outstanding. I've loved it. I've enjoyed time away from the game. Yes, I've missed parts of the game. I've really missed the competitive edge, and that's probably what I've missed the most.
All right, let's talk about when you did decide to call it quits. You spoke in your book about how you felt when you walked off at Trent Bridge. Was day one of that test, from a pure cricketing sense, the worst day of your career, the worst you felt on a cricket field?
Tough to compare. We got bowled out for 47 against South Africa. That was a pretty tough day.
Given what was at stake, though?
There was definitely disappointment with, our result in that series. The fact that we lost the Ashes. I think I was probably more disappointed with my own performances. If I was to blame anybody for our defeat through that series, it was me. It wasn't anybody else, and it wasn't from lack of trying. The guys worked so hard. The whole team was very well prepared. We just didn't perform, and as captain, I prided myself on performing from the front, leading from the front and performing, and I didn't do that series.
In hindsight, do you know why? Have you ever been able to put your finger on what went wrong personally with your form?
No, I can't sit here and say very clearly what I think it might have been. Maybe in the back of my mind, the thought of retirement was there before that series even started. So yeah, it's probably easy for me to sit here and say if we had won, I would have walked away anyway, but I'll never have to worry about that.
It must burn a bit though, knowing how competitive you are and your own worst critic, I suppose.
It hurts that I never won an Ashes series in England. I don't think there's too many other things the teams I was a part of, we didn't achieve.
When you look back at the Oval and that final day, sort of what were you feeling? What do you remember from the sheds and from being out on the ground?
I was a little bit embarrassed, to be honest, just about the boys clapping out on the field, Alistair Cook and the England team when I walked out to bat, having a guard of honour. I was a bit embarrassed with the attention, but yeah, it was as expected, I guess. A lot of people asked me why I didn't come back and play in Australia, and if I wanted to retire, walk away then. But again, that's never really been me. Every game I've played in Australia, I feel like I've had people stand and respect and applaud the way I've played the game. So I didn't need the SCG walk off the ground at your home ground. I didn't feel like I needed that.
There were quite a few people who sort of didn't take their time, I suppose, in saying some negative things when you did call it quits. Did that hurt you? You touched on it a bit in the book, but did it hurt you?
It's just disappointment more than anything else. I don't think it hurts because this stage it's water off a duck's back because I've copped it my whole career, but it's just disappointing when past players or a past coach come out and say something when you feel like you've given Australian cricket, not just the Australian team, but I played for New South Wales, I played for Western Suburbs. I feel like I've helped try and grow the game, get boys and girls to play the game, and I feel like I've given cricket my all. And when people make a comment, they've got a job, whether they write in the media or work for a television station or radio station. I respect that, and I guess I probably could have chose my words better when I wrote my book as well. I think there was obviously a lot of emotion attached to my comments in regards to Andrew Symonds and John Buchanan. I don't take back anything I said, but I could have chose my words a little bit wiser. But yeah, it's definitely disappointing when you think that the team that John Buchanan was coaching, I'm sure I helped that team win some games of cricket. I would think and hope that I helped Andrew Symonds perform as well as he did for me. He was a big part of helping me as a young player grow and have success, and yeah, it's just disappointing sometimes. But like I say, I think you become accustomed to criticism. That's part of being a professional athlete, and it takes time to get thicker skin, I guess. But through my career, I've experienced it, so it's a lot easier to take now than it was when I was 24 years of age. So
how do you think you're viewed? Like, how do you, whether it's the public or a former teammate, have a problem with you? Why do you think that it is? Because I feel like you've copped it a bit more than maybe most.
Oh, because I'm probably different. I don't drive a ute with case of EB in the front and a cattle dog in the boot. I don't know. I guess when I guess I probably see myself sitting in the middle of Generation X and Generation Y. I still know I've got old school values, but because of my age, I sit in the Generation Y. I am different. I haven't tried to be anybody apart from myself. I haven't tried to change. I feel like I'm the same person I was, that my mum and dad brought up as a 6-year-old boy, and my values haven't changed. I've always been true to myself, and some people are going to like that, some people aren't. And I've always respected that as well. I think I've said a number of times through my career that for me it was about being respected more than being liked.
The way that Brad Haddin ended up retiring from Test cricket, of course you weren't the only one to finish over in England. You found out later that Darren Lehmann had met with the senior players in the team and that you weren't a part of that meeting. Do you wish that you were and that you knew that it was happening?
Not really. Buff was always he was very honest with me, so it was more a surprise that I didn't know that meeting had taken place, and I think it was good of Buff to go and speak to the other senior players. I don't think he was asking their opinion. I think he was letting them know in advance that this decision had been made, and I think that's very good man management from Buff, and it shows the respect he has for the other senior players. It was just the fact I wasn't aware that took place, but Buff told me, and I think it was a good decision for him to do that.
Do you guys stay in touch, you and Darren?
We do, yeah. We spoke the other day. He wished me all the best for this game and coming on Saturday. I stay in touch with a lot of the guys. It's nice to see them doing really well. Obviously, I was as concerned as anybody when Buff suffered the DVT, because I know he's suffered it before in the past, and it's not... I know he will just wipe it off like, no, I'm fine, but it's quite scary.
18 months ago to 2 years, there was talk that you guys didn't get along and that you had quite heated conversations about a few things. Was there any truth to it?
There was definitely truth that we had heated conversations the whole way through, you know, Buff coaching and me being captain, but we'd always been great mates as well. You know, Buff had been a senior player when I started playing for Australia, and I always seen him as, you know, a vice captain or a captain without that badge on his arm. He still was a great leader in our team as a player, and he was no different as a coach. You know, me and him will still and always have got on really well. But you disagree, you know, you disagree on things, and we had those conversations one-on-one, and we respected each other's decision. I think that was probably the main thing through my career. You know, there was a number of times that, you know, I probably wanted one player or two players different to what the selectors wanted. Didn't go that way, but I respected their decision. I think through my captaincy, it was probably only on one occasion that I opened my big mouth to the media and was disappointed with one player, and that was when Steve Smith was left out in Zimbabwe. So, but I learned from that, and that certainly wasn't a pot shot at the select. It was more probably the frustration, disappointment that we'd lost to Zimbabwe, and I thought if we had Smitty in the team in that game, the result might have been different, considering how well he plays spin bowling, and that wicket spun, so I thought his bowling could have been handy. But, you know, and again, Buff and Rod certainly respected my opinion. You know, Rod's another one. Rod has been like a second father to me. He met me and helped me through the young days of my cricket career at the academy, and there's a lot of talk in the media that, you know, that we didn't get on. It's certainly, you know, not that we don't get on, it was the fact that we had honest conversations with each other. When we disagreed with things, we made it clear to each other, and I think that's I thought for me anyway, that was the perfect relationship I wanted with Rod Marsh and Darren Lehmann.
Coming up after the break, Michael Clarke opens up about his hamstring saga and losing his best mate.
Back in 2014, before the first test against India, the original first test, the furor, I suppose, over your hamstring and your fitness and availability, you were saying one thing, the selectors were saying another. Were you going to play that first test as it stood, and were you all on the same page?
This is one of the things I love about the media. I wasn't saying anything because I didn't talk to a journalist, but the perception was I was saying a lot. We were disagreeing with my preparation leading up to the test match. I was getting advice from the Australian medical staff of where I was fitness-wise versus what the selectors and the high performance manager, Pat Howard, wanted me to do in preparation for the test. Unfortunately, I couldn't meet their needs, so I guess we'll never have to worry about it, but from my side, I was very confident that I was going to be left out of that first test match in Brisbane. Were
there hard feelings between you and selectors after that at all?
No, there was honest conversations with Rod Marsh, Pat Howard and obviously Buff. I guess the frustration for me was that I felt like I'd never stepped foot on a cricket field for any team if I hadn't thought I could perform at my best. At that stage, I think I'd played 100 test matches, so I felt like I knew my body very well. So, you know, I was hoping, like they had done in the past, selectors had done in the past, they were going to allow me to prepare how I felt was fit. I definitely thought and agreed with the selectors that I needed to play a game to prove my fitness to me more than anybody else, for me to be able to know that I could walk out onto the field and represent Australia and perform at the highest level. So yeah, we disagreed with things, but that was probably the hardest thing for me to cop through that stage, that if I was going to be left out of that test match, you know, 15 days on or 10 days on after, unfortunately, Phillip passes away, I've done no extra fitness, I've played no cricket, yet I get selected for the Adelaide test match.
So were you annoyed with selectors and vice versa with the messages that were coming out? Because they were quite strong at the time, there were statements.
I don't know how to word it the right way. Look, I think at the end of the day, I feel like I know my body better than anybody. Like I say, I'll say it again, I've never stepped out onto a cricket field if I felt like I haven't been able to perform for that team and perform at my best. If I can't walk out and make 100 or 200 as a batsman, then I'm not fit to play. I played a number of test matches through my career. Sorry, I can count on one hand how many test matches I played in my career where I wasn't injured. So I'd played a lot of games, not 100% fit, but every one of those games I felt like I could make 100 or make a double 100. It wasn't going to affect, you know, my performance. Yeah, it might have looked a bit old and might have been able to sprint like I did when I was 21, but I knew I could still do my job. So
you felt like they could have backed you. They could have backed you a bit better.
But I understand their side as well. You know, they wanted me to play the state game. The medical staff ruled me out, said I wasn't fit for the state game. They wanted me to play the CA11 game. The medical staff said, you know, that extra day of flying down, not having treatment, sitting on a plane for 2.5 hours, I don't think you're and play against an international team. I don't think you're ready for that either. And there was a club game that I was available to play. They and I both thought that it was probably in my best preparation to play that club game. You know, the frustration. If I had flown to Adelaide and played the game and got out first ball, they were still going to pick me for the test match. That was hard for me to comprehend, where I thought, it doesn't make much sense because I haven't proved fit. I haven't proved if I'm fit to me. If I go to South Australia and play against India in a practice game and get a golden duck, and you're going to pick me for the test match, I can't comprehend that, because I don't know if I can walk out onto the field in Brisbane and perform at my best, because I haven't been able to perform in this game. I've got no runs. You know, I felt like I needed to be able to play a game, score some runs, test my body out to know if I could do it then 10 days later playing for Australia.
And they weren't backing you on that?
And they wanted me to play that game.
Of course, everything changed from that point anyway. Did the loss of Phillip change cricket for you? Did it take the joy out of the game?
I think it changed cricket for everyone. I think players now are certainly starting to feel a lot more comfortable, but I think you can see, you know, there's a change of helmets now. Guys are wearing the neck protection. If somebody does get hit on the helmet, the player runs straight up and is really apologetic, and there's a lot more care there taken now. I think for a lot of the guys that were close to Hughesy, it was really tough to, especially as a fast bowler or as a captain, to ask your fast bowler to bowl short to a batsman. You know, I didn't do that after what happened with Phillip. I think, you know, Mitchell Johnson's a great example. I think he found it really hard to try and bowl short to someone with that same aggressive attitude that he'd always had through his career. I think that was difficult for him. You know, Starkey probably the same. So, yeah, I think a lot did change. Did it take enjoyment away from cricket? Well, no doubt. No doubt. I'd lost one of my closest mates, and, you know, we'd spent so much time together, especially when we were on tour. You know, probably the hardest tour for me in my career was the West Indies tour. You know, not having Phillip there, that was the first tour I went away since Hughesy passed away, and not having him there was, you know, I guess I probably felt that at that stage the most I'd felt it leading up to it, I guess.
Have you ever got a chance to deal with it? Do you feel like you have ever fallen in a heap, you know? Oh, definitely,
yeah. I think through that series I had some tough times in my room on my own. But then I think once I retired from international cricket, I was able to get away from the game and really accept what had happened.
It's a hard thing to accept.
Yeah, there still is, no doubt. There's still tough days, you know. I think, well, for everybody, you think of the anniversary of something, whether it be, you know, the Test match in Adelaide, when he passed, his birthday, you know, things like that are always tough. I probably find it hard walking out under the SCG regularly, and with sponsor commitments in Sydney, we do a lot of stuff at the SCG, so that's always difficult as well. But yeah, I think he'll forever be in a lot of people's thoughts and minds, and so he should be. He was that type of guy.
Does it make you sad when, you know, you think of your daughter and she doesn't get to meet him, because he would have loved her. He would have loved that.
Well, he was telling me to have kids about 5 years earlier, so oh yeah, definitely. I think it makes me sad thinking about him every day, but yeah, look, I'll do my best to make sure my daughter knows about him, that's for sure.
Why do you think it mattered so much to the world? Because the way the world responded, not just Australia, what was it?
Well, I think the way he passed was devastating. You know, I think, you know, as a parent, you protect your son or your daughter from, you know, don't speed in the car, don't drink drive, go to a bar or a nightclub and, oh, I hope my kid doesn't get involved in drugs, you know. Go and play sport. I feel safe. If you're playing sport, you're in a safe environment, you've got good people around you, you're not doing drugs, you're not drinking alcohol, yet it happens, you know, him playing sport, the sport he loves. So you know, I guess that was probably, you know, as big a shock to everyone as anything else, and most importantly, it was his character, the type of person he was. That's what everybody loved. Everybody loves so much about him. He didn't have a bad bone in his body.
When you think about the Adelaide Test, how difficult was that to not just get yourself up, but to get the boys, the men around you up? Because people didn't want to play in that test to start with.
Oh, I didn't want to play in the test match. I didn't think it was enough time for the team to, you know, to realise what had happened. But looking back on it now, it was a fantastic decision by Cricket Australia to give us some time for the whole team to be a part of the funeral and go to Maxville, but then also to get back into cricket. I think it was the right decision. So yeah, it was hard, but I love that. You know, there wasn't, and we spoke a lot about it as a team. We spoke, you know, it had to be an individual's decision. If you didn't feel comfortable playing, that had to be left up to the individual. But I love the fact that we all played together.
How glad are you that you had, I suppose, that moment and also your personal innings in that, despite the injury as well? I would have
liked to have been able to walk off the field. Yeah, I guess it was emotional. There was no doubt.
I suppose the numbers as well. Like it's undeniable, the 408, and it's happened to you again, and the 60. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yep. I can't believe somebody took, and I didn't know this. Somebody took a photo when I walked off the field at the Oval the last time I batted, and it was 408. Like, it's crazy how that works out, but. Yeah, the performance, it was a special feeling, I think, for all the boys to play, let alone who performed or who made 100 or who got wickets. It wasn't about that. It was more the fact, I think anyway, the fact we all took the field together, we won the test match, and that shows a lot of character from all those players.
So when you look back at your career, obviously that was a major period for you, but what's the one moment where you think that's where I learnt the most about myself?
I'd have to say getting dropped. I think being dropped from the Australian team as a young player, as much as I hate saying it, was the best thing that happened to me. It made me realise how much I wanted to play cricket for Australia, how hard I had to work to get into that team, and then on top of that to stay in that team. Things I had to change in regards to attitude, training, the way I batted, the way I prioritised preparation in front of everything else, in front of sponsorship, in front of media, in front of a lot of different things. I think that was probably a huge learning curve for me, and one that I'm extremely grateful that I had.
You mentioned in your book how many times you sort of manipulated, shall we say, the message in the media to get the boys pumped up or to send a certain message. What's the biggest flat out lie you told in a press conference as your time?
Let's call them white lies. Who knows? Who knows? I think you always try and be as honest as you can, but you protect your teammates. There's no doubt about it. It's not lying. It's just protecting your team, protecting your teammates, trying not to give too much away to the opposition. Biting your tongue on occasion. Sometimes I understand, sometimes it's, you know, there's situations where you have to be completely honest. And I guess, you know, the situation in India when 4 players got dropped, I think that's an occasion where, you know, we probably tried to only give 60% of the information. That was the time where the public needed to know everything. You know, they needed to know the full truth. I think we should partly blame ourselves for not being completely open and honest with that.
So you would have done it differently again, that situation?
I just would have been more open and honest from start to finish. I would have told the public. I think they had the right to know, you know, it was more than just, you know, Mickey Arthur asking for guys to do their homework and and 4 guys not doing their homework. That was the icing on the cake.
Did that period damage your relationship with a few people, do you think?
Well, I think, you know, I stood beside Mickey and 100% supported his decision. So I think people certainly saw me accountable for that, and I never hid behind that. I never, again, as captain, I think you should be accountable. I was never scared of that tough conversation with a teammate or with the team. So I guess, you know, some people might have found that harder to accept or deal with, but I hope after, you know, as time went on, I hope they respected and understood the reasons that I made decisions through my career, or I had that conversation with that player.
Just finally, when you look at the baggy green, whether you have put it away for good or not, what do you think and what do you feel?
I cherish every game I played for Australia. I loved playing for Australia. Like I say, I'm really happy with the time I spent, that 13 years playing at the highest level. I'm really happy with my time walking away from international cricket. I feel like that part of my journey has been outstanding, and I loved every minute of it. I experienced the highs and the lows, and what a great journey. You know, I owe the game so much.
Is there a teeny little bit of you that wants your daughter to see you playing out there wearing it?
Not at all. I couldn't care less if my daughter ever sees me play cricket. I love it a bit, and yeah, I have no interest in her watching me play cricket for anyone she doesn't want to watch me play cricket for.
Content?
Very happy.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This has been a production of Fox Sports.